clicked his mandibles in irritation, antennae twitching as he addressed the Galactic Council's War Committee. The collection of various species military leaders stared back at him with expressions ranging from amusement to outright dismissal. Well, the ones who had facial features capable of expressing emotions anyway. "Your concern is noted. Veterans Representative Crust," drawled High Commander Vexthor, their crystalline form shimmering with barely concealed condescension. "However, the humans have barely achieved interplanetary travel. Their technology is primitive, their military forces fragmented, and their social structures chaotic. The invasion plan will proceed as scheduled." Kriz chittered a laugh that held no humor. "Primitive? Have you actually studied their history? Their warfare?" He pulled up a holographic display, cycling through images of human conflicts throughout the ages. These primitive beings went from powered flight to landing on their moon in 66 planetary cycles in 66. Do you know what my species was doing 66 cycles after achieving powered flight? Still trying to figure out how to stop our wings from falling off mid-flight. The War Committee shifted uncomfortably, but High Commander Vexthor remained unmoved. "Ancient history, our current analysis, is garbage," Karzit interrupted, earning several gasps from the more protocol-minded committee members. "I fought alongside humans in the Centaurian border conflict. Do you know what they did when we told them their kinetic weapons wouldn't work against the Vorkath battle mechs?" "Enlighten us," Vexthor said dryly. "They redesigned the ammunition on the spot, in the middle of a battlefield. Some engineer named Jackson took one look at the energy shields and said, and I quote, 'Oh, that's just spicy physics. Hold my coffee.' 2 hours later, they were launching shells that created localized gravity distortions on impact. The Vorkath never knew what hit them. Literally. Their sensors couldn't even detect the projectiles." General Nextara, a towering insectoid from the hive mind territories, leaned forward. "But surely they're limited numbers." "Limited numbers?" Krzit projected a new set of statistics. "Humans have a saying. Quantity has a quality all its own. They can go from peacetime economy to full war production in months. Remember the Arcturus incident? One human colony barely established with a population of less than 10,000. The Drachnid Empire thought it would be an easy conquest. You know what happened?" The committee members exchanged glances. Everyone knew about the Arcturus incident, but no one liked to discuss it. "The colonists held out for 3 weeks using mining equipment and improvised weapons. 3 weeks! Against a Drachnid battle fleet. And when reinforcements finally arrived..." Krust's antennae wiggled in what his species' body language indicated as a combination of amusement and horror. "The humans didn't just drive the Drachnids off. They reverse-engineered the captured Drachnid technology, improved it, and had it in mass production within a year. A year!" "That was an isolated incident," Vexthor insisted. "Our invasion force will be..." "Too small," Krist cut in. "No matter how big you think it is, it's too small. Humans don't fight like we do. They don't follow the rules of engagement that every other spacefaring race has agreed upon. They don't slowly escalate through the traditional stages of conflict. They go from zero to scorched earth in the blink of an eye." He pulled up another display, this one showing various human weapons and tactics. "They still teach their warriors ancient combat forms, hand-to-hand fighting, in an age of energy weapons. And you know why? Because they've had their communications jammed enough times to know that sometimes it comes down to, as they say, boot to ass." The committee room fell silent as Kriz continued cycling through images. "They have weapons designed specifically to create fear. Psychological warfare isn't just a tactic for them, it's an art form. They'll paint their aircraft with shark teeth and their tanks with demon faces. They play music during battle. Music! Can you imagine? The last thing many Vorkath heard was something called Fortunate Son." General Nextara's mandibles clacked nervously. "But our technological advantage will last about 5 minutes, Krist said. "Humans have this incredible ability to look at any technology and immediately think of ways to break it, improve it, or turn it into a weapon. Usually all 3. Remember those gravity distortion shells I mentioned? The engineer who designed them went on to create a whole new field of physics. He named it after his coffee brand, just to be funny." High Commander Vexthor's crystalline surface rippled with irritation. "You paint them as some kind of unstoppable force, yet they haven't conquered the galaxy. They haven't even tried to expand beyond their local cluster." Krust's antennae drooped slightly. "That's because they're too busy fighting themselves. The only thing humans like more than fighting aliens is fighting other humans. They've turned war into a science, a philosophy, an economy, and sometimes even a sport. The only reason they haven't spread further is that they're still arguing about which human system of government is best. He brought up one final display, showing Earth's military response times to various historical crises. But the moment you attack them, all that infighting stops, immediately. They have a saying for this too. Nobody picks on my little brother but me. The entire species will unite against an outside threat faster than a quantum entanglement. You're being melodramatic, Vkr'lak said, but there was a hint of uncertainty in their harmonic tones. Am I? Krust clicked his mandibles together in a gesture of grim amusement. Let me tell you about something humans call the Geneva Convention. It's a set of rules they created for warfare. Rules that, by the way, they only apply when fighting other humans. The fact that they needed to create rules to limit their own capacity for violence should tell you something. A junior member of the committee, a newly appointed strategist from the Aquarian Collective, raised a fin. But our simulations... Your simulations are based on rational actors following established military doctrine, Krust said. Humans are anything but rational when it comes to warfare. They will look at your carefully crafted battle plans, laugh, and then do something so monumentally stupid that it wraps right back around to brilliant. He began pacing the chamber, his chitinous legs clicking against the floor. In the Centaurian conflict, I saw a human ship disabled by Vkr'lak weapons. Instead of surrendering or trying to retreat, they overloaded their engines and turned their entire vessel into what they called a really big bullet. They aimed their crippled ship at the Vkr'lak command carrier and activated their emergency acceleration systems. Do you know what the captain said when told the maneuver had only a 12% chance of success? The committee waited in uncomfortable silence. He said, "Never tell me the odds," followed by some colorful profanity, and then he did it anyway. And it worked. The Vkr'lak were so shocked by the sheer audacity of the tactic that they didn't even try to evade. High Commander Vkr'lak's crystalline surface had lost some of its earlier certainty. Surely not all humans are so extreme. Krust made a sound that might have been a sigh. No, they're not. Some are worse. I once saw a human engineer patch a hull breach with nothing but emergency sealant and what she called duct tape. When I told her that was impossible, she said, "Hold my beer," and proved me wrong. They have these things called myth-busters who literally blow things up in the name of science and entertainment. They combine education with explosions. He turned to face the committee, his compound eyes reflecting the holographic displays still floating in the air. And let's not even get started on their information warfare capabilities. They turned social media into a weapon. They can meme you to death. Literally. The Vkr'lak had to shut down their entire propaganda network because humans kept flooding it with something called Rick rolls and pictures of cats. This is absurd, Vkr'lak said, but their voice lacked conviction. You make it sound as if there's some sort of unstoppable force of chaos. Exactly. Krust's antennae perked up. Now you're getting it. They are chaos incarnate. They're a species that looked at the void of space and said, "Let's go there," before they even had the proper technology. They strapped themselves to controlled explosions just to leave their planet's atmosphere. Their response to nearly every major problem is to throw more explosions at it until it goes away. He brought up one final image, a simple photograph of Earth taken from orbit. This is what they're fighting for. Their homeworld, the cradle of their species. Do you really want to be the ones who try to take that from them? Because I promise you, if you do, they won't stop at just defending it. They'll follow you home. They'll follow you to the edges of the galaxy. And they'll probably bring that engineer with the duct tape and their stupid cat pictures. The chamber fell into a deep silence as the committee members looked at each other nervously. Finally, High Commander Vkr'lak spoke, their crystalline form dimmed to a subdued glow. Perhaps we should review our invasion plans. Krust's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Wise choice. And while you're at it, I suggest reading up on something humans call guerrilla warfare, just so you know what you're avoiding. As the committee members filed out of the chamber, General Nextara approached Krust. You really fought alongside them? Unfortunately, yes. Krust's antennae twitched with what might have been fondness. Scariest and most impressive allies I've ever had. Did you know they have a beverage called energy drinks that they use to stay awake for days at a time? They voluntarily poison themselves with stimulants just to keep fighting. Who does that? And that engineer you mentioned? The one with the duct tape? Krust's compound eyes seemed to glaze over with memory. Last I heard, she was working on something called a space trebuchet. I don't know what it is, but knowing humans, it's probably both brilliant and terrifying. They're funny like that. As Kurz left the chamber, he couldn't help but chitter in amusement. He'd probably saved countless lives today, both alien and human. Because if there's one thing he'd learned fighting alongside humans, it's that the only thing more dangerous than their capacity for violence was their creativity in applying it. And somewhere on Earth, an engineer was indeed working on a space trebuchet, while drinking coffee, listening to rock music, and occasionally pausing to look at cat pictures. Because that's just how humans do things. 3 standard cycles later, Kurz sat in his favorite relaxation pod, sipping fermented nectar and watching the galactic news feeds with a mixture of resignation and vindication. The headlines scrolled past in various alien scripts. Human resistance continues to defy expectations. 7th Invasion Fleet destroyed by improvised weapons. War Committee denies accusations of incompetence. He clicked his mandibles in a pattern that translated roughly to "I told you so" in his native language. The pod's communication crystal chimed, and a familiar harmonic tone filtered through. "Veterans Representative Kust." High Commander Vexthor's usually smooth voice carried an edge of desperation. "We require your expertise." Krez took another long sip of his drink. "Oh, has the invasion not gone according to your sophisticated simulations?" The silence that followed was deeply satisfying. "The humans have exceeded our projected resistance capabilities." "You don't say." Kurz pulled up the latest battle reports on his holographic display. Would this have anything to do with them converting their orbital garbage collection systems into what they're calling the biggest shotgun in space? Another uncomfortable silence. "Among other concerns, yes." Vexthor's crystalline form appeared in a projected image, their usual brilliant glow dimmed to an anxious flicker. "They've begun employing tactics that defy all known conventions of warfare." "Let me guess," Krest said, settling deeper into his relaxation pod. "They started playing music during battles? They've hijacked our fleet's communication systems to broadcast something called 'Never Gonna Give You Up' on repeat. Our psychologists report increasing cases of combat stress among the crews." Kruz chittered in amusement. "Ah, the infamous Rick roll. I warned you about that one specifically, if you recall. But please, tell me more about how my concerns were melodramatic." "This is serious." Vexthor's image flickered with agitation. "They've begun spreading these memes through our military networks. Our younger officers are starting to question orders because, and I quote, 'humans have the better jokes.' Information warfare at its finest," Krist mused. "How's that engineer with the space trebuchet working out for you?" Vexthor's crystalline surface rippled with what might have been a shudder. "We lost 3 capital ships to that medieval monstrosity. She somehow scaled up an ancient siege weapon to launch relativistic projectiles. The patents were filed under the name Yeet Cannon Alpha. Classic human engineering," Kurz noted. "Let me guess, they're already working on a beta version?" "They've developed 17 variations. One of them launches smaller trebuchets." Kruz's antennae twitched with barely suppressed mirth. "And how about their ground forces? Have they employed any of their ancient combat forms yet?" They charged one of our forward bases with primitive bladed weapons while screaming something about Valhalla and Leroy Jenkins. The base commander was so confused by the apparent suicide attack that he failed to notice the actual assault force tunneling up from below. Ah, yes, the human tactic of being so crazy that the enemy's tactical doctrine breaks down trying to understand what you're doing. Krust projected a few more news feeds. "I see they've also started modifying their civilian vehicles." Vexthor's image seemed to slump. "They're calling them technicals. Civilian ground transport vehicles mounted with surplus weapons. One of them has 'Honk for the Apocalypse' painted on the side. Another plays something called ice cream truck music while deploying autonomous combat drones. And let me guess, standard military doctrine has no protocols for dealing with an ice cream truck that shoots lasers. We lost an entire mechanized division because the commander couldn't believe the threat assessment was real. Who weaponizes civilian food distribution vehicles?" Krust's compound eyes glittered with amusement. "Humans do. Just be grateful they haven't started deploying the music festivals yet." "The what?" "Oh, you haven't encountered those? Humans have these massive gatherings where they play extremely loud music and dance for days on end. During the Centaurian conflict, they converted one into a mobile fortress. The base frequencies alone could disable sensitive equipment within a kilometer radius." Vexthor's crystalline form dimmed further. That explains the reports about something called Burning Man Strike Force Alpha. Let me guess, They're combining psychological warfare with actual warfare. They've mounted energy weapons on something called a festival stage. The troops are calling it the Rave Cave. It's distressingly effective. Krizist finished his drink and clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. And how are the civilian populations handling the occupation attempts? They're memeing us to death, just as you warned. Every defeat, every tactical error, every miscalculation becomes an instant joke shared across their information networks. Our troops' morale is collapsing under the sheer weight of their mockery. They've somehow turned our most advanced battle tactics into something called dance challenge videos. And the Human Engineering Corps? Still giving you trouble? Vexthor's image flickered with what might have been a sob. They've started improving our own technology. We captured one of their bases, only to discover they'd already reverse-engineered our weapons and made them more efficient. They left notes suggesting better power management systems, with detailed schematics, and something called emoji, drawn all over them. Krust's antennae wiggled in appreciation. Ah, yes. The human tendency to mix helpfulness with mockery. Did they also leave behind any of their entertainment media? They introduced our troops to something called cat videos. Discipline has completely broken down in 3 sectors because the soldiers are too busy watching small furry animals knock things off elevated surfaces. And have you considered my suggestion about reviewing the Geneva Convention? We did. Vexthor's voice dropped to a horrified whisper. They're not even using their restricted weapons yet. Everything they've done so far has been with their legally acceptable arsenal. Kurst leaned forward. Now do you understand why I tried to warn you? This isn't even humans at their most creative. They're just getting warmed up. The War Committee is reconsidering its position. Vexthor's image fluctuated uncertainly. We would appreciate any insights you could provide on negotiating a cessation of hostilities. Oh, now you want my advice? Krizit projected an image of his own, showing the latest human tactical innovation. A swarm of autonomous drones programmed to dance in formation while delivering precision strikes. Tell me, how are you enjoying their TikTok tactical division? Please, Vexthor's voice carried genuine distress. How do we make them stop? Krist sighed, his antennae drooping slightly. You could try surrendering. Humans can be surprisingly forgiving when you admit they were right. Just be prepared for the memes about your surrender to become part of their historical records. Surely there must be another way. Well, you could always challenge them to a dance-off. At this point, it might be less embarrassing than continuing the invasion. As if to emphasize his point, another news alert flashed across the displays. Human engineers announce completion of Bass Cannon. Promise it will be, quote, sick drop bro. Krest chittered softly. You know, I fought alongside that engineer with the duct tape obsession. Want to know what she said to me once? Vexthor's image pulsed weakly. I suspect I'll regret asking. But what? She said, the difference between engineering and messing around is writing it down. They document everything, Vexthor. Every victory, every defeat, every crazy scheme that worked despite all logic saying it shouldn't. And they share it all, so the next generation can build on it. They're not just fighting you. They're treating this invasion as a massive research and development opportunity. Another alert scrolled past. Human militia groups now offering guided tours of captured invasion vessels. Gift shops opening soon. They're monetizing our invasion? Vexthor's voice cracked with disbelief. Of course they are. Humans never waste a good crisis. I'd start preparing your surrender announcement now if I were you. And maybe consider hiring some of their engineers afterward. They'll probably give you a post-invasion discount. As Vexthor's image faded, looking thoroughly defeated, Krast pulled up the latest human entertainment broadcasts. They were already producing dramatic reenactments of the invasion, complete with what they called blooper reels of the most embarrassing tactical blunders. He settled back in his relaxation pod, ordered another drink, and prepared to enjoy the show. After all, he'd tried to warn them. Now all that was left was to watch humans do what humans do best, turn a planetary invasion into a combination of performance art, engineering challenge, and viral content. Somewhere on Earth, that same engineer was probably already designing merchandise for the gift shops. And knowing humans, it would probably be weaponized somehow. Just another day in the galaxy, really. This is, without a doubt, the most irregular peace negotiation I have ever attended, Krist observed, watching as human and alien delegations mingled in what the humans had dubbed the Victory Party and Tech Exchange mixer. High Commander Vexthor's crystalline form pulsed with resigned acceptance. At this point, I'm just grateful they're not playing that Rick Roll song anymore. Oh, give it time, Krizit chittered. The night is still young. They stood in Earth's newly constructed orbital diplomatic center, which had been assembled with suspicious speed, using a combination of captured alien technology, human innovation, and what appeared to be an concerning amount of duct tape. The space station's design somehow managed to incorporate both cutting-edge xeno-architecture and what humans called a club vibe. Is that engineer giving a presentation? Vexthor asked, their voice carrying a note of dread. Krust's antennae twitched in amusement as he watched the infamous duct tape enthusiast, now appointed as Earth's chief of xenotechnology integration, demonstrating her latest invention to a crowd of thoroughly bewildered alien scientists. And that's how we combined your quantum field generators with our base cannon technology, she explained enthusiastically, gesturing at a holographic diagram that seemed to defy several laws of physics. We're calling it the quantum beat drop. It can either create the sickest dance party in the galaxy or tear a hole in space-time, sometimes both. Both? A hive mind territory scientist clicked nervously. Yeah, turns out there's a sweet spot in the quantum harmonic resonance that makes you want to dance right before reality starts to get weird. We're still working out the kinks, but the prototype testing has been promising. Who wants to see the video? Krist nudged Vexthor. You know, this is actually going better than the last peace negotiation I attended. At least no one has challenged anyone to a dance-off yet. Actually, a booming human voice cut through the crowd. About that? Oh no. Vexthor's crystalline surface dimmed in horror. Admiral Jackson, the same human who had invented the gravity distortion shells during the Centaurian conflict, stepped onto the central platform. He was wearing what humans called a Hawaiian shirt, decorated with patterns of little spaceships and explosions. As part of our new cultural exchange program, he announced, grinning broadly, we've decided to settle any remaining territorial disputes through a combination of competitive engineering and dance battles. We're calling it Tech Wars, Dance Resolution. The alien diplomats stared in confusion while the human delegates cheered. Krust noticed several alien engineers looking surprisingly interested. The rules are simple, Jackson continued. Each team gets 48 hours to build something awesome using a random combination of human and alien tech. Then they have to present it while dancing. Points are awarded for style, innovation, and how well you can moonwalk in zero gravity. This is absurd, Vexthor whispered. Surely no self-respecting alien scientist would... They were interrupted by the sight of a hive mind territory engineer raising all 6 appendages. Question: can we use the quantum base cannon in our projects? Heck yeah! The human engineer shouted back. Just try not to break causality too much. We've only got so much duct tape. Krust watched as the initial shock among the alien delegates gradually gave way to curiosity, and then, most worryingly, enthusiasm. He recognized the gleam in their eyes, the same look humans got right before they did something brilliant and terrifying. They're corrupting our best minds with their chaos, Vexthor observed with a mixture of horror and fascination. No, Krizit corrected. They're teaching them to think differently. Watch. Across the room, mixed teams of human and alien engineers were already forming, exchanging ideas in a rapid-fire blend of technical jargon and memes. A crystalline scientist like Vexthor was excitedly discussing quantum harmonics with a human DJ. A hive mind engineer was learning about something called breakdancing, while simultaneously explaining hive mind neural interface protocols. Is that one of my best quantum physicists doing something called the robot? Vexthor asked weakly. While discussing quantum entanglement theory, yes, Krust confirmed. I believe they're trying to figure out how to make particles dance in sync across space-time. The human engineer was now standing on a table, announcing team assignments. Remember, folks, each team needs at least one person who can explain their project using only interpretive dance. Also, we've got a special prize for whoever can incorporate the space trebuchet into their design in the most creative way. We're dooming the galaxy to chaos, Vexthor moaned. No, Krust said thoughtfully. We're evolving. Look around. When was the last time you saw scientists from different species collaborating this enthusiastically, even if their methods are unconventional? As if to prove his point, a cheer went up from one corner where a human hive mind team had just successfully created what they were calling a quantum-entangled dance floor that supposedly let people bust moves simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Besides, Krust added, wouldn't you rather have them inventing ridiculous dance-based technology than weapons? I suppose, Vkr'lak admitted. Though knowing humans, they'll figure out how to weaponize dancing somehow. Oh, they already have. But they're teaching us something important too. How to think beyond our conventional limits. How to combine creativity with technology. How to, what do they call it? Vibe with the universe. They watched as the human engineer demonstrated something called the worm to a fascinated group of alien scientists who were already discussing ways to modify their anti-gravity technology to enhance the move. You know what the really scary part is? Krust mused. What's that? I'm starting to understand their logic. It's like that engineer told me during the war. Sometimes the best solution is the one that seems absolutely ridiculous until you try it and discover it works perfectly. A small explosion from one corner interrupted their conversation. Through the smoke, they could hear excited voices. The quantum harmonics are perfectly synchronized with the bass drop. But can we make it sparkle? Pass me that duct tape. Someone document this for the next engineering conference. Already posting it on Space TikTok. Krust's antennae wiggled in amusement. You know, I think this might be the start of something interesting. Dangerous and unpredictable, but interesting. How so? Well, humans have this saying, innovation is just creative destruction with better PR. They're teaching us to break our own rules, think outside our traditional boundaries. And judging by the way that HiveMind engineer just combined zero-gravity parkour with quantum physics, I'd say we're learning fast. Another cheer went up as someone successfully merged alien teleportation technology with something humans called breakdance fighting. The resulting demonstration violated at least 3 laws of physics, but looked, as the humans would say, totally awesome. Should we be worried? Vkr'lak asked. Probably, Krust admitted. But I think I'm starting to understand why humans do things this way. It's not just about the end result. It's about the joy of discovery, the thrill of trying something new, the... Quantum dance battle in 5 minutes, someone shouted. Bring your best moves and your weirdest tech. The absolute chaos of it all, Krust finished. But you have to admit it's never boring. As they watched the galaxy's finest scientific minds prepare to settle theoretical physics disputes through the medium of dance-enhanced technology, Krust couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, the humans' way of doing things wasn't so bad after all, even if it did occasionally tear holes in the fabric of reality. You know, Vkr'lak said thoughtfully, their crystalline surface shimmering with newfound interest. I think I'm beginning to understand why you fought alongside them. Oh? They make the impossible seem not just possible, but inevitable. And somehow, they make you want to join in. Join the quantum conga line, someone shouted. We're trying to set a record for most species dancing in quantum superposition. Krust looked at Vkr'lak. Vkr'lak looked at Krust. Well, Krust said, his mandibles clicking in what was definitely a grin. Shall we contribute to the advancement of science? And that's how, less than a standard cycle after attempting to invade Earth, the galaxy's most prestigious military commander ended up learning to quantum conga alongside the species they had tried to conquer. The footage naturally went viral across 17 dimensions. And that concludes my report on the current state of galactic civilization, Krust announced to the stunned Galactic Council. Any questions? The vast chamber remained silent for a long moment before General Nextara raised several appendages at once. Let me get this straight. In the 6 standard cycles since the failed invasion of Earth, humans have... The insectoid general consulted their notes. Started an intergalactic engineering competition called Pimp My Spaceship? Correct, Krust confirmed. Established a chain of combination nightclub research facilities called Lab Raves? Currently operating in 27 sectors, yes. Transformed the former War Committee into something called the Department of Radical Innovation and Progress, DRIP for short? Their suggestion, not mine. Though you have to admit, productivity has increased by 300%. And somehow convinced the HiveMind territories to participate in something called flash mob diplomacy? Krust's antennae twitched with amusement. The quantum-synchronized dance protests did successfully prevent 3 interstellar wars last cycle. It's hard to maintain hostile intentions when your entire species is involuntarily doing the Macarena across multiple dimensions. High Commander Vkr'lak, whose crystalline form now sported what appeared to be LED mood lighting, leaned forward. "Don't forget the educational reforms." "Ah, yes," Kurz clicked his mandibles. "The Fail Forward Fast initiative. Humans convinced our scientific institutions that failure is just success in progress. Now our researchers actually compete to see who can fail in the most spectacular and instructive ways." The Arcturus University Quantum Physics Department did win last cycle's Best Explosion in the Name of Science award, someone noted proudly. "And let's not forget what happened to the military," another council member added. Krust projected a series of images showing the transformation of the galaxy's various armed forces. Traditional military parades had been replaced by what humans called talent shows. Combat exercises now included categories for style points. Even the dreaded Vkr'lak battle mechs had been modified to incorporate something called dance battle protocols. "The humans call it bringing the party to the battlefield," Krist explained. "They argue that if conflict is inevitable, it might as well be entertaining. The number of actual wars has dropped by 87% since implementation. Though that might be because everyone's too busy trying to perfect their zero-gravity breakdancing," Vexthor noted, their crystal surface pulsing in what had become the universal sign for throwing shade. "Which brings us to the most significant development," Krist continued, pulling up a new holographic display. "The Galactic Cultural Integration Index. As you can see, the rate of cross-species collaboration has increased exponentially since we adopted human methodologies." The display showed a dizzying array of statistics. Interspecies research papers up 500%. Cross-cultural meme exchange at all-time high. Record number of patents filed under "Because Why Not?" Quantum physics, interpretive dance fusion, now fastest growing field of study. Duct tape consumption up 1200%. Reports of sick beats causing actual temporal distortions. First successful demonstration of chaos theory applied through contemporary dance. "That last one was particularly impressive," Krust noted. "They managed to solve a 1,000-year-old mathematical problem through what they called synchronized vibing with the universe." "But what about order?" someone asked from the back. "Structure? Traditional protocols?" Krust's compound eyes glittered. "Let me tell you about something humans call organized chaos." He projected a new image, showing the latest innovation from Earth's Xenotechnology Integration Division. It looked like a cross between a particle accelerator, a dance floor, and something that might have been designed by an engineer who had consumed too many energy drinks. "This is the Quantum Harmony Protocol," he explained. "It combines every major species approach to physics, engineering, and artistic expression into one unified system. The humans call it straight-up bonkers, but it works. It actually works better than any of our previous systems." "But how?" General Nextara demanded. "Because it embraces chaos as a fundamental force of innovation," came a familiar voice. The human engineer, now officially titled Chief of Keeping It Real While Breaking Physics, strode into the chamber. She was wearing a lab coat decorated with LED patterns that pulsed in sync with her words. "See, we humans figured out something important," she continued, hopping onto a hovering platform that definitely hadn't been rated for such use. "The universe isn't neat and orderly. It's wild and weird and wonderful. So instead of trying to force everything into rigid structures, why not embrace the chaos and learn to dance with it?" She pressed a button on her sleeve, and the chamber's gravity began to fluctuate in a rhythmic pattern. "For example, this isn't just a cool zero-gravity effect. It's actually demonstrating a new theory of gravitational harmonics. We discovered it when someone asked, 'What if gravity could drop the bass?'" Krust watched as the council members, rather than reacting with their traditional horror at protocol violations, began to move with the gravitational rhythm. Some were even taking notes. "And that," he added, "is perhaps the most significant change. We're learning to stop asking why, and start asking why not." "Speaking of which," the engineer interjected, "who wants to help test the new quantum-entangled karaoke system? We're pretty sure we can get the whole galaxy singing in harmony. Literally." To Krust's continued amazement, several council members immediately volunteered. "Oh," the engineer added with a grin, "and we've finally figured out how to combine the space trebuchet with the bass cannon. We call it the Yeet Beat. It can launch objects through space while playing what humans call sick drops." "But why?" someone asked. "Because it's awesome," she replied, as if this explained everything. And somehow in the new galactic order it did. Krust watched as the traditionally stoic council chamber transformed into what humans would call a proof-of-concept party. The engineer was teaching a group of quantum physicists something called the robot, while several high-ranking diplomats discussed the potential applications of meme theory in interstellar relations. "You know," Vexthor said, their crystalline form now pulsing in perfect rhythm with the quantum fluctuations. "When you first warned us about humans, I thought they would destroy galactic civilization." "They did," Kruzd replied cheerfully. "They just replaced it with something more interesting." Somewhere in the background someone shouted, "Quantum crowd surf incoming!" followed by the distinctive sound of physics being cheerfully violated. "Should we be concerned?" Vexthor asked, though their tone suggested they already knew the answer. "Probably," Kruzd admitted. "But I've learned that with humans, concern is just the first step toward breakthrough. Besides, have you seen the latest efficiency ratings? Turns out combining work and play actually produces better results." "Emergency dance party in Sector 7!" someone announced over the intercom. "Temporal anomaly detected. Bring your best moves and your quantum calculators." Kruzd's antennae wiggled in what had become the universal gesture for, "Why not?" "Shall we contribute to the advancement of science?" he asked Vexthor. "Only if we can stop by the lab rave first," Vexthor replied. "I've been working on my quantum crystalline light show." And as they headed off to what would probably be either a major scientific breakthrough or the galaxy's best party, or both, Kruzd reflected that maybe, just maybe, his warnings about humans had been right, but for all the wrong reasons. They hadn't destroyed galactic civilization. They'd upgraded it, with a sick beat, of course. Author's note: the Space Trebuchet will return in Part 5, when beats drop and physics stops, featuring the first ever galactic quantum rave competition.